Remember those times when you used to stroll down the block and find local stores such as the mom and pop diners and get the chance to relish the coziness and sense of family environment there? Even mom and pop stores and diners had to set up their digitalization game with the pandemic erupting. Being listed on a last delivery service platform and reaching a much broader customer base beyond the neighbors became a must have for survival. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Analytics Insight podcast, where we talk about the ever evolving technology space. And I'm your host, Priya Dayalani. The modern consumer is increasingly getting inclined towards online shopping, mobile apps, and e-commerce business. I'm sure this is no much of a big surprise for our listeners and for everybody. But this change in behavior has compelled the CPG companies to adopt digital strategies to stay relevant and engage their customers effectively. So, what is the current scenario and future trends on the use of technology in the retail and CPG industry? Today, with us, we have Marc Koehler, Product Director of Product Strategy at Relic Solutions. Hi, Mark. How are you doing?
Hey, Priya. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Great. It's a pleasure to have you with us on a podcast today. And I think we're going to explore some more sites regarding how the CPG industry has evolved and what role the technology plays in terms of shaping the future of the industry, including the retail industry. So let's start with telling our listeners about what exactly is Relic Solutions and its specialization.
Excellent. And thanks for having me on, Priya. Greatly appreciate the time. Relax is a Finnish-based company. We were founded in roughly 2005, and we were founded by three supply chain researchers. And they were very focused on eliminating waste through the end-to-end value chain. So as you think about it, they were really focused on driving optimization within that whole process. Relax Solutions itself, will really help focus retailers, wholesale companies, and consumer packaged good companies align on the optimized demand, merchandising processes, supply chain processes, as well as operations to ensure the end-to-end value chain is optimized in its purest form. So when you think about it, by ensuring resiliency, efficiency, and driving bottom line value to the end state customers that we work with. We have roughly 2,000 Relaxians across the globe, and we also cover pretty much every region throughout the world. And some things that come to mind when you think about Relax, and what I like to think about from our unique value proposition is we have a customer first mindset and a customer first mentality. And so our focus, as mentioned, is optimization, but we really want to drive tangible results. And we've been able to do that successfully around the globe. We work with more than 500 customers around the globe. And one nice thing is we've never had a failed implementation. So we have great customer satisfaction and a great opportunity to work with some of the biggest and brightest customers, retailers, CPGs that you can imagine. So it's a great company to work for.
Great. Thank you for letting us know about what exactly Relax Solutions is. And when we're talking about digital commerce, I think it efficiently requires the digitization of many customer-facing operations and sourcing and procurement. And I think when you're talking about businesses, irrespective of the size, the digital transformation of supply chain planning has become like a more important initiative for each business. So, having said that, can you also tell us more about your role and contribution towards the company, being the director of product strategy? What exactly is your role at Relax?
Sure. So I find myself in a fun and unique role as being director of product strategy. I'm based out here in California, and I have a purview of the Americas. And so when you think about Relax as a whole, of course, we're a global set company, but I've been asked to essentially look at all of our product and our capabilities and bring at least requirements as well as product to life through the lens of our Americas market. And so this means I find myself in a number of different conversations traversing our expansive capabilities across many industry verticals. And so as mentioned, we cover demand forecasting, supply chain, merchandising. We also cover price and promotion as well as operations. And then we also have a really marked focus on grocery, food manufacturing, do-it-yourself or DIY specialty, as well as health and beauty areas. And so with that, I find myself working with all of those types of customers, but also working with a lot of our internal stakeholders, making sure that they do have the right collateral, the right content, the right support they need in order to work with our customers as well as our prospects on a daily basis. So it's quite a bit of fun. One thing I do absolutely love about my role is I get the opportunity to work with, as I mentioned, those 500 plus customers that live across the entire globe. And we really get to solve some of the biggest and toughest challenges within the supply chain arena. So it's a fun role.
Right, quite interesting and fascinating, I must say. And when you're talking about the supply chain dynamics, I think even with the advent of new tools and technologies, most CPG supply chains still fall short because they are still kind of wired for the brick and mortar functionality and not for the new modern complexities of the omni-channel e-commerce. So that's probably the reason why some retail stores and the CPG companies are unable to adapt to the changing business environment. So, could you highlight some of the current challenges in the supply chain and the retail planning landscape as to what are these challenges and why are the supply chain companies or retail companies not able to foster a very agile business methodology?
It's a great question, and there's definitely quite a few different, I'll call it impacts or challenges that retailers or I call it just customers in general are trying to overcome within that landscape. Obviously, there's the macroeconomic landscape, and there's a tremendous amount of global disruption. So, certain things like inflation continues to be a key theme around the world. And then, of course, geopolitical situations are everywhere. So it's very tough to plan when you're having to deal with, many changing priorities as well as many changing dynamics within the marketplace. That being said, that definitely drives, an underpinning, at least move for customers. And I think when you look at a customer, their preferences constantly change. And they could be changed, just due to the nature of preference, but also they could be forced to change just based on different ways that their, cost of living has changed. So, I think with it, certain things like personalization is key, and personalization gets very difficult, especially when you're trying to do that at scale. There's also other areas that I see, being talked about on an everyday basis. There's the need to focus on sustainability. So obviously everybody wants to be a good corporate citizen, but you want to do that in a way that you're reducing waste and spoilage, but also doing that while adhering to, cost pressures, whatnot. And then, with that, it is very hard to do everything when you're working with multiple different silos across to the end value chain. So I think a lot of folks out there are looking at different ways that they can better collaborate and drive transparency throughout the end-to-end value chain. But it gets very difficult when there's so many folks within the process itself.
Right. I think I completely agree, especially in terms of personalization and sustainability that is increasingly becoming one of the challenges that I've come across that retailers are unable to deliver, or they face kind of it becomes very difficult for them to deliver personalization across different target audience that they're dealing with. But I think Relax recently published a study, and it shows that rapidly shifting consumer demand volatility, that is 55% of the participants, and global events and disruptions, that is around 50%, and inaccurate sense of customer specific demand, that is 43% of the surveyors say that it's one of the biggest threats to improving supply chain efficiency and accuracy over the next 3 years. Now that's quite an impressive number, I would say, in terms of what the surveyors have pointed out. So, can you highlight some of the key findings about this report, that is the state of supply chain, retail, and CPG dynamics?
Indeed. So I think with it, obviously, there's the report out within our website, which you can definitely pull together a lot of the statistics and whatnot. But as we looked at the report and as we looked at the data, a lot of the noted, at least pressures or challenges that we just highlighted, rang true. So, the change in consumer demand, the global events, the inaccurate demand, and the lack of, at least transparency, or in other words, real-time data, hindered quite a bit of the folks when they look at, how they tend to look at driving efficiency over the course of the next 3 years. And when you boiled that down, and then you started to look at and ask them questions around prioritization, around what their key corporate initiatives would entail, It was very interesting because, of course, one common theme that we like to see and we hear in the industry is wanting to use and leverage AI and ML capabilities. When we ask a couple different questions around where their priorities exist, actually leveraging AI and ML ranked fifth amongst multiple different priorities, which included enhancing online e-commerce sales, driving efficiencies around inventory management and demand forecasting, as well as providing better data analytics and reducing waste and improving sustainability. And the interesting thing about that, at least when we looked at the data, is with AI and ML ranking fifth, it almost makes you wonder, are some of those folks underestimating how AI and ML can actually be used in order to help overcome a lot of those priorities and challenges that they're working with? So with it, perhaps it's an opportunity for us to go out and better educate how we can, really drive efficiencies around improving their corporate initiatives. And so with that, there's quite a bit of things that we're doing, not only today, but also continuing to enhance our portfolio to ensure that we bring things to life in a meaningful way to really exploit those capabilities.
Right. It's quite surprising to see that artificial intelligence and machine learning ranking is fifth in importance for overall technology spend behind enhancing e-commerce capabilities and leveraging data analytics. Because when you're talking about supply chain planning and retail planning, I think like you mentioned, real-time data and the use of data analytics has become so important in terms of ensuring effective and efficient last mile delivery, and especially with consumers demanding to be in loop at each step of the order process. It's kind of I wouldn't say surprised, but also like a little shock that how come AI and ML are ranking fifth. But this also suggests that companies may be underestimating AI's role in tackling the consumer demand volatility. And while you said that you probably are putting up different initiatives in terms of fostering the use of AI in such companies. So, what are your views on the current landscape in terms of using AI in the retail industry?
It's a great question, and obviously, the term AI and ML gets thrown around quite a bit. And it's really funny. I'm an avid golfer, and now essentially drivers the term AI on them, and it's like, well, what does this technology actually do? And when you try to manifest it down into something that would be useful for supply chain, I guess from a Relex standpoint, we try to break things down into some meaningful buckets. And when you think about ML and AI, we like to look at things from what we call specialized AI. And then, of course, the latest and greatest Gen AI. And within those two silos, we really try to break down how we leverage that ML and AI in order to really help overcome business problems. And so when you think of specialized AI, think of machine learning and optimization. And think about that being used across all of our capability areas, whether that be supply chain, merchandising, and or operations. And the whole goal and the focus there is to really drive efficiencies, as well as optimizations and recommendations based on certain circumstances that are presented to a user. You can then complement that with generative AI. And then obviously, with generative AI being something that, we continue to learn more about and we continue to invest in, its language and reasoning skills provide a tremendous platform in order to marry the two. And so, with that generative AI, is something that we've been piloting, and we've actually just launched what we call Rebot, which is actually integrated within the Relex user suite. And this provides an opportunity for users to essentially drive, high quality knowledge about how Relex solutions can actually, be used circumstances, and then complement that with, its specialized AI. It can actually provide some recommendations in respects to the way that things are using. So we continue to pilot, we continue to use that, and a lot of our customers are using that right now within their application and workflows in order to make sure that they're able to drive that efficiency. So like I mentioned, we try to, break it down into, two meaningful buckets, again, that specialized AI and that generative AI. With that, I guess to kind of sum it up, I would say that the specialized AI is something that the teams can actually leverage and feel very comfortable with. So as we talked about those challenges or those focus areas, something like enhancing e-commerce and online sales, you can use quite a bit of specialized AI in order to, really help drive efficiencies in making sure, for instance, you're placing the right product at the right place based on that customer's purchase path or that path or that customer journey, and whether it's buy online, pick up at store, or it's buy online, have it shipped to home. We can make sure that product and that demand is living in the right area when that customer goes and essentially interacts with a said customer or retailer or a CPG company.
Right. I think a specialized AI definitely is the need of the hour in terms of boosting the efficiency, whether it's increasing e-commerce sales or probably ensuring that the retailers are able to meet the increasing demands of the customers. And I guess staying ahead of the cutthroat competition has always been a daunting task for key players in the retail industry around the world. With fluctuating market conditions and the availability of various options, I think consumer behaviors are also constantly evolving. And leveraging the right tools and technology to predict future product demand at convenience stores has accurately as possible has become a very competitive advantage. And that is the reason why forecasting and inventory planning are the pillars of in the retail industry in terms of maximizing revenue. So while we are emphasizing on these points, why do you think the retail and the CPGs are yet to fully embrace technological solutions like AI and machine learning to drive demand forecasting accuracy?
I think with it, when you think through that question, there's probably quite a bit of at least responses that we hear from our customers on an everyday basis, and that we also see in the marketplace. I think a lot of folks actually think data needs to be perfect, and data needs to be 100% available in order to get started. So that, at least has some folks worried that, they're going to have to start and then stop and then start and then stop. Others have projected access to funding. Obviously, there's a lot of competing priorities within a company. And so with that, when you're trying to leverage multiple different, at least programs in order to drive efficiency, sometimes the forecasting, at least in AI and ML capabilities, tend to get pushed to the side in favor of other areas. And then when you start thinking about, forecasting in itself, I think many might actually feel it might be too isolated from other activities that might drive significant value. And I say that because some companies tend to look at certain things like forecasting in a silo. And I guess that's perhaps a different way than we look at it at Relax. And so with that, what we try to do is we try to educate, how we can, really drive efficiency, not only through creating a great demand forecast, but then marrying that with the other capabilities that we bring to life across our portfolio. And I'd be happy to get into a little bit more depth there, but want to be conscious of time, depending on where you'd like to go.
No, I think we would like to know more about it. And if you're talking about the in-depth, you can probably just let us know more about it.
Yeah, sure. So when we think about demand forecasting, that is just one piece of the puzzle. And so at Relax, when you think about that forecast, think about that forecast being unconstrained and being defined at its lowest granular level. And so that could be item, location, day, or that can be item, location, actually day, part. And then what we do is we then take that day forecast, that incremental forecast, and we essentially propagate that throughout our portfolio. And we propagate that throughout so it's unified. So pretty much every capability is then working off that same component, that same understanding. And so that could be, inclusive of, then wrapping, constraints around that in respects to ordering. Do I need to order, product in a certain way? Do I need to assort product in a certain way? Do I need to price and promote product in a certain way? And we're able to essentially then use the levers and constraints of each one of those processes and really understand the impact of overall demand. And so to bring that to life, think of a category manager at a company looking at ways to improve their overall sales margin and inventory production or productivity. And they're looking to add items or remove items from assortment. So they're going to remove those items which might not be selling very well in those respective locations. And they know that because they have that incremental demand or that demand at its lowest granular level. And so they're able to, effectively make intelligent decisions, or at least have Relax suggest intelligent decisions around what to drop, but then also perhaps what items to add and the impact that they're going to have not only to that assortment, but all of the other items around that assortment to make sure that they're getting true incrementality, and they're also ensuring that they're representing their brand well. And then you can tie that against pricing and promotion respective goals, and you're able to understand pricing and promotion impacts. And then also, when you start thinking about, when you begin to sell that product, how and where you need to place that product on the shelves, down at that personalized level that we talked about earlier. And so that really kind of wraps everything around that single demand forecast, and it keeps it unified. But when you're actually making all these decisions, they're actually working in harmony versus working in silos, which is really great. And so when we do talk about that forecast, think about that as the central heartbeat that everything works around, which is very neat. And the team has spent quite a bit of time and effort in order to make sure that symphony of sorts, happens in a way that is very coordinated and sounds great to the ear and is beautiful to the end state consumer.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for going into detail and giving more insights about it. And I think accurate forecasting eventually can help retailers and CPGs to make some critical decisions regarding their supply chain and improve business outcomes. But when we're talking about demand volatility, I think there are a lot of factors that come into play that results in that. Like probably it can be fluctuations in product prices, weather conditions, or sometimes even social media posts. So sometimes it becomes difficult for companies to rely on it completely. But I think there are companies such as IKEA that have used demand forecasting effectively and have gained tremendous success. But what they really need is the right model and technique for demand forecasting, which sometimes can be challenging because there are a lot of factors, internal and external, associated or influencing those. So I think companies need to refine their forecasting models to arrive at accurate predictions. So how do you, ensure at Relax that you're refining and continuously updating your platform, or what are some of the new and innovative areas of focus for Relax, or some of the upcoming or emerging pain points of customers that you're planning to target in the near future?
Right. Well, from a modeling and tuning standpoint, our forecast is very flexible. So we work with a machine learning forecast that provides the flexibility to essentially provide multiple different both internal and external factors in order to influence that demand. And then with that, you're able to definitely look at all different types of items that you do sell. And we use different modeling for different items, based on their sales velocity. So it provides a lot of flexibility, especially for those that have both fast moving goods as well as perhaps slow movers or specialty items that don't move as fast. And so with that, you can think of a one-stop shop for us, in order to provide, one end state forecast. And so that's been a lot of effort and a lot of time and that the team has spent deriving that. And the neat thing is we do that in a very automated and optimized way. Some of the other areas the team has definitely leaned into as well is making sure that we're providing accurate, I'll call it data, to our models. And so when you do think about certain things like inventory position, one of the key things that we hear from some of our customers is the fact that they don't have a good sense of inventory placement across their supply chain. So what we've also done in combination with, investment is looking at using similar models to forecast inventory position. And so essentially, while companies might have, the actual concept of perpetual inventory, there's a lack of trust. And so we can create this synthetic inventory that is then used in order to make sure that we're able to drive a better depiction of what's on shelves or, online in respects to, making sure that not only are we able to present a customer with, a true view of what the shelf looks like, we're actually able to use that information in order to create more intelligent orders, which then leads to more accurate orders. So we're able to eliminate or remove spoilage, but we're also able to increase on-shelf availability, which is something neat that the team has been really working on. So we call it predictive inventory, but think of it as a synthetic inventory. Is one other neat innovation. There's a few more, but I want to be an observant of time, and I can dive into more areas, but also want to leave some space if there's other questions that you'd like to ask.
Right, right. I think we would like to know more about it since we're talking about it. I'm sure our listeners would love to hear more about it.
Okay, perfect. Well, some other areas that we've been actually leaning into is with that predictive inventory. How do you then create a solid user experience across the board? And so the two areas of neat innovation that we're focusing on is again that rebot. We're leveraging generative AI in order to drive efficiency amongst users, but then how can we actually marry that rebot with each part of our solution suite in order to make sure that not only are you able to get a better set of recommendations, but you're actually able to ask the discerning questions about why. And so the transparency that we're trying to provide, as well as flexibility through rebot, is something that the team is really excited about. There's a lot of neat things that we can do with that technology. And then also from a solution set of capabilities, not only are we going with something in respects to predictive inventory, but we're also thinking about different ways that we can bring more accurate recommendations and more exciting recommendations around price and promotion. And so when you think about pricing and promotion, one of the key things is trying to do that in a unified way. So you have an everyday regular price, but then you also have key themes and campaigns that you definitely want to push out into the marketplace. And making sure that you're able to marry your forecast with the unified price and promotion recommendation is key. And there's a lot of folks out there trying to do that. But what we're doing here at Relax is doing that in a unified platform and in a unified system. And so when you're actually pulling, again, one lever, every other lever is responding in a unified and orchestrated way. So think of when I go and I create a promotion, not only am I able to, understand what that promotion is in a clear, distinct manner, you're able to then optimize that promotion to better understand what vehicle or promotional vehicle you should be using to get the best outcome, as well as perhaps maybe the respective items that you should promote based on a particular campaign. And so we want to eliminate those promotions that are not productive, and then also accurately depict what are going to be your best promotions that are not only going to provide bottom line value, but for instance, ensure customers are excited about what they're seeing on the shelves versus just some other run of the mill or stock promotion that you see on a shelf on an everyday basis.
Right, right. And I think as more retailers expand their channels, whether it's online or pick up at the store, shipping from the stores or drop shipping from the manufacturer, I think inventory and delivery costs are also escalating. And again, on the other hand, I think consumers have more options in terms of promotions, pricing, which adds more complexities to the supply chain of dynamics. So one last question for you would be: are there any strategies that you would like to suggest for retailers and CPGs that can help them adapt or build to the supply chains of the future?
Yeah, for sure. One of the things, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, everybody's always worried about data. And I guess I would stress the fact that, data is important, but it doesn't need to be 100% perfect to start. And I think with that, there are ways that you can tackle forecasting projects. You can, tackle supply chain projects, pricing and promotion projects, et cetera, in an approach where you're able to take, the so-called crawl, walk, run approach that provides near-term wins with long-term benefits. I think I would then, also at least provide some guidance or ideas around selecting a partner to work with that provides a lot of configurability and flexibility, because priorities do change. We've all seen that over the course of the beginning of this decade with COVID and a lot of the geopolitical, strife that's happened across the globe. And we've seen many of our customers have to change not only the way that they look at business, but the way that they're continually evolving their capabilities. And so when you provide a solution that's configurable and flexible, they're able to grow, they're able to toggle, they're able to change. And so look for that configurability and, flexibility. And then finally, I think when you think about it, obviously speed to value and ROI is key, but look for those partners with the least amount of risk. Look at those partners that have, the true set of, customers that you're not only able to leverage and share ideas amongst, but also those customers that, see that tangible ROI. Some of the great companies out there will ensure that they've created, a collaboration forum in order to have customers talk with other customers. So certain things like special interest groups, customer advisory boards, and targeted councils, are key when you do think about, not only implementing a solution, but then having to nurture and live with that solution in order to drive, future success. And so I think you think about it, look at it from a couple different perspectives. Again, don't think data has to be perfect. Look at configurability and flexibility, and look at that, essentially that overall ecosystem that you're going to be essentially moving to, both from a product standpoint, but also a peer standpoint.
Right, quite well said, Mark. And I think the COVID-19 pandemic sparked a meteoric shift to online shopping, which has helped in creating unprecedented opportunities for CPGs to build market share and grow. And to seize these opportunities, I think they need to remove the bottlenecks created by the legacy supply chain systems and processes. And I believe agility is a key in responding to rapidly changing technology and business landscape, and empowering businesses to sense, learn, respond, and evolve like a living organism. I think would be quite imperative for retailers going forward. And I believe the year 2024 represents significant movement in the journey towards a tech-driven or even a customer-centric retail industry. But those who seize this opportunity stand to thrive in the ever-changing world of retail. Well, thank you so much, Mark. It was a pleasure having you with us on a podcast today. We definitely gained some new insights and perspectives in terms of the CPGs and retail, and how they can build the supply chains of the future and ensure that they are surviving in the ever evolving technology and business landscape.
Great. And thank you for the time today. I appreciate the venue.
Thank you so much, Mark. Well, this is for our listeners. Stay tuned for our upcoming podcasts, and you can listen to all our previous podcasts on Spotify and other leading platforms. Thank you so much.